Hi there, this is Alan from ComputerXplorers, and I am going to run through a quick tutorial on how to make a video game in Scratch. Hopefully it's something you haven't done before. It's certainly a great way to spend some time learning a little bit more about what you can do in Scratch, and hopefully it gives you some good ideas for what you can do in the future. So first off, we are going to use the online version of Scratch. Here's the website. So you can go to the website that's on the screen here. Alternatively, you can just search for Scratch or using a web browser, and once you've found the website, scratch.mit.edu, and open it up, you've just got to click Create in the menu at the top, and there may be a little window to close which has got some tutorials in it, but you should be ready to go. Okay, so here's the game that we're going to make. As you can see, the screen's pretty simple. We've got a background which I've chosen to be a room. We've got the cat sprite, and we've got a mouse sprite just over here. And there's a scoring mechanism. Now the idea is that we're going to be the player and we're going to control the movement of the cat, and the mouse is going to hide, and then he'll pop up somewhere else on the screen, and then he'll hide again, and so on. And our job as the player is to catch the mouse. Every time we do it, we get a point, and we can sort it out so that we get something like maybe a timer to see how long we can get to 10 points, how long it takes us to get to 10 points, or maybe we can do something like just run a high score mechanism. So let's see how it plays. So as you can see, the cat is moving all of the time. I use the arrow keys to control the direction that it moves in, and you can also see that the mouse appears and reappears in different locations. There you go. I've just got the mouse for the first time, and as you can probably hear, there's a little sound effect, a little meowing cat sound that goes with it. And given that I've now done that 3 times, my score is 3. So, that is the basic gameplay. We've got to control the cat, we've got to catch the mouse, and we get a point every time we do it. So, let's look at the basic options, the basic things that we've got to do to make this work, and then we can start putting it together ourselves. Okay, so let's look at the various elements of the game. First, we've got to program the movement of the player. We're going to use the arrow keys on the keyboard to determine the movement. We've then got to work out how to program the behaviour of the mouse so that it hides, goes to a random place, and then shows up again. We've got to put in place a scoring system so that when the cat catches the mouse, we get a point. And then some finishing touches. So we can look at sound effects, other background sounds. We can put in a timer. We might want to add a high score. There's a few different things, and we'll be, given that we've broken it down into stages, we'll go through them one by one. So let's start with the movement of our player. Okay, so here we are in Scratch, and we are going to now look at the movement of our cat, the player, the character that we are controlling when we play the game. So first off, you'll remember that I said that the cat moves on his own, but we control the direction that he moves in. So the first thing we want to do is get him to move. So we'll say that the green flag up in the corner here is going to be the thing that starts the game. So when the green flag is clicked, I want my cat to move forever. So I've gone to the control category here, and I'm going to select this forever loop, which means that until things are stopped by a mechanism within the game, the actions within this loop will happen forever. Now it's pretty simple. We'll go to motion, which is the category in blue at the top here, and we'll choose the move 10 steps block and put it into the loop, which means that our cat will move forever. Now, if we press play, the cat moves, but he just moves in one direction. I'll stop that, grab him, put him back in the screen, there we go, and now I need to be able to control the direction that he's moving in. So, I'll go back to those events blocks. That's where I got the green flag clicked from before, and now I'm going to get the next one down, which says when space key pressed. Now, the space key is obviously only one of the many keys on your keyboard. And if you click the little arrow next to the word space, you'll see that you get the chance to choose any one of those keys. And we're going to use the arrow keys. So you can see that the up, down, right and left arrow keys are right up the top of this list. We'll choose up arrow first. And we then want our cat to point in a particular direction. So let's choose from the motion blocks this point in direction block. And you'll see it's got a number on it. Now, directions in Scratch are determined by a number. If you click on the number, you'll get this clock face. And you can see that the arrow is currently pointing to the right and the number is 90. If you click on the arrow and move it up or down, you'll see how that number changes. Now, at the moment, I want to use the up arrow, so I'm going to move my pointer so that it points straight up, and the number that goes with that is 0. Okay, so when I use my up arrow, my cat will now point in the up direction. There we go. I clicked the up arrow, and as a consequence, my cat pointed in the up direction and moved up the screen. He also flipped over. We'll deal with him flipping over in just a minute. So, we want to do this for all 4 of the arrows so that we can go in all 4 directions. So, if I put my mouse on the first block in this little script, I'll put it over the word when. I'll right click and I'll choose duplicate. I've now got that same little script twice. If I do it 2 more times, I've got it 4 times, which means I can do the same information for all 4 arrow keys. So this is the up arrow. We'll now go for the down arrow, and on this one we will bring this little pointer down to 6 o'clock, pointing directly down. The number is 180. The next one we can go for right arrow and move that little pointer over to 3 o'clock so that it's pointing to the right. And then the last one is left, and same thing again, go backwards around the clock to 9 o'clock and we'll choose that. Now that means that my cat can now be controlled to move in every direction. So if I press the green flag now, I can use the arrow keys to get him to go up, left, down and right, and I can control exactly where he's going. The one thing that he's doing at the moment is he's flipping over, and I don't really like that for the control of the game. Fortunately, there is a block which we can use to control his movement. So, I'm still within the motion blocks here. If I scroll down a little bit, there is a block towards the bottom that says Set Rotation Style. And you've got a few choices. You can have it so that he doesn't rotate at all. You can have him rotate all around. That means he will flip over and point in whatever direction he's going in. Or you can have left-right. And that's the one I'm going to go for. I'm going to go for left-right. Now I need to find a place to put this block. I want this to apply immediately that the game starts. So I'm going to put it in here, right underneath a when green flag clicked block. And now when I press play, my cat doesn't turn over. He always stays upright. But actually when he's going to the right, he's pointing that way. When he's going to the left, he's pointing that way. Personally, I think that looks a lot better. Okay, so that's the movement of our cat. Let's have a look at the next section. So that's the movement of your player. The next thing that we want to look at is the behaviour of the mouse. We can get that, as I said, to hide, show up in a random location, and then hide again. Let's see how we do that. Okay, so our mouse. First thing we need to do is get our mouse sprite. At the moment we only have one sprite, which is the cat. Right down here in the bottom right of the screen there is a round button with a little cat's head on it. If you click on it, you'll see it says choose a sprite. And if you just move up one block to, say, the magnifying glass, and click on that, you get to see all the different sprites that are built into Scratch. There are a lot. So, what we're going to do, we're going to use this menu across the top to just narrow things down a bit. We know that a mouse could be classified as an animal. So let's just scroll down here a little bit and we should find our mouse. There he is. It's in alphabetical order, so it should be pretty straightforward. And here we go. Now we've got our second sprite. You can see down below the main screen we've got our second sprite. And the coding screen is blank now because we are going to put together the code for our mouse. So, first thing we need to do for our mouse is, in the events category, say when the green flag is clicked, so when the game starts, we want our cat to hide so we don't know where he is. If we go in the looks category, the second category down, you'll see that there are two blocks a little way down, one called show and one called hide. We're actually going to need two hides and a show. So let's grab those. So first things first, when the green flag is clicked, we're going to tell our mouse to hide. We're then going to go back to the motion category, the blue ones, and we're going to tell him to go to a random position. He's then going to show so that we can see him. Now we'll just get him to wait for a short period of time. So if we go into the control category, there is a wait 1 second block just there. And after he has waited for a second, we'll get him to hide again. Now that's great. It'll make him do that once, but we actually want him to do it repeatedly. So let's go and get a forever loop. Now most of this needs to go inside the forever loop. Everything apart from the first hide, because we do want our mouse to be hidden when the game starts. So we'll pop that inside there, and actually there's one more block that we'll put in there, which will be a second wait 1 second block, and we'll put that in right at the bottom. So ignore the cat for a moment, that's just going to wander off the screen. But if we look at the mouse, we can see that he goes somewhere, he hides. He goes somewhere else, he hides. He goes somewhere else, he hides. And hopefully that sort of random behaviour means that he's a difficult mouse to track down when we're playing the game. Okay, that should mean that we're okay with the movement of the mouse. Okay, so we did the movement of the player, and now we've done the behaviour of the mouse. Let's move on now to a scoring system. Okay, so next up is the scoring system. We want to get 1 point every time our cat catches the mouse. Now I'm going to put the scoring system onto the cat sprite, and to start off with we need to create a variable which is going to be our score. In the range of categories over here we have variables down towards the bottom, it's the orange dot. And when we click on that, you can see that there is already one variable created, which is called my variable. So we'll grab the first block, which says set my variable to 0. Click on the little arrow next to my variable. You can rename it, and I'm going to rename it score. And you can see now that every variable, or the only variable, is now called score. So when we start the game, we want the score to be 0, and then every time we catch the mouse, we want the score to increase by 1. It's a little bit like having a birthday. When you're born, your birthday or your age is 0. You wait a year, and your age changes to 1. You wait another year, your age changes to 2. So, let's say, when the green flag is clicked, which is when the game starts, we're going to set the score to 0. Then, we're always going to watch out for the cat catching the mouse. So we're going to say forever, and inside the forever loop we've got to say if the cat catches the mouse. So we're going to use this loop that is below the forever, which says if then, and we're going to put that loop inside the forever loop. So forever if something happens, then do something. Now we go into the sensing category, the next one down underneath control. The light blue category, we'll find a whole bunch more blocks, and some of them are quite different to ones we've seen before. But the one we're going to use is the one at the top. So it's got pointy ends, and those pointy ends are a bit of a clue as to where we're going to put them. where we're going to put it? We are going to put it inside the hexagon. So all you need to do is drag it over towards the hexagon, and you'll see that as you hover your mouse over that hexagon between the words if and then, you get a white glow around it. When you drop that, you can see that the block, the sensing block, moves into that hexagon. Now, we don't want to say if I'm touching the mouse pointer. What we want to say is if I am touching the mouse. So remember, this is if the cat is touching the mouse, then do something. So the thing we want to do is we want our variable, which is our score, to change by 1. Now, at the moment, that looks great, but we can't actually see our score. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take the third block down in this variables category, which says show the variable score, and we're going to pop that right underneath the when green flag clicked. So, if I start my game now, I have a score, I can move my cat, and my mouse appears every so often. Now, one of the problems you may just have noticed is every time I hit my cat hits my mouse, my score increases by way more than 1 point. I'm up to 65 points already, 72 points now. Let's see if we can rectify that. All we really need to do is we need to ask our cat, or our score variable, rather, on the cat, to just wait a second before it adds on another point. So, if I go into the control category and grab a wait 1 second block, I'll pop that immediately underneath the change score by 1, press play, and now my score only goes up by 1 each time I hit my mouse. There we go. So, have a look at that code. That is the scoring code, which will enable us to see how many points we've got. So, we're managing to tick off the various different elements of our game. We did the movement of the player, we've done the behaviour of the mouse, and we've done a scoring system. So now we just need to look at the finishing touches, which will give our game some personality and will give it a bit more playability and a bit more of a fun appeal to people. So let's look at things like sound. We'll look at maybe a timer, and we'll look at a high score function. One of the things that you might remember from the first demo that I showed you was that each time the cat caught the mouse, there was a little sound effect that played, a little meow sound. That's really easy to include. All you need to do is go to the third category down on the left, which is called sound, and the pink blocks that are available there allow you to add sound controls to your program. What we're going to use is the second one down, which is called Start Sound Meow. Now, fortunately, the game starts off with a meow sound loaded that goes with the cat. You could record your own sound if you wanted to, or alternatively, if you go up to the top of the screen and you click on the Sounds tab, you can find additional sounds which you can add to your game. So down in the bottom corner here, there's a button that's called Choose a Sound. If you click on the magnifying glass, you can find a whole bunch of different sounds. There are a lot of them. And they're divided up into categories. You could click on different animal sounds, for instance. We've got our meow sound, and I'm going to stick with that. So I'm going to click on the back button up in the corner here and go back to the code. And then this block here, we're going to put into our piece of code. So, when the cat is touching the mouse, we've already established that we can add something to the score. What we now want to do is get it to play a sound. So, I'm going to pop this into the block immediately below the change score by 1 block. By doing that, we'll get a little sound effect, which will add some personality to our game. There you go. So now we're going to add a timer to our game. To do this, we're going to need to make a new variable. So we'll do that, and we'll call it timer. And then we'll need to work out some code which will enable the timer to start and keep going so that we can see what we've done in a particular time. So to do that, very simply, some familiarity with things we've done before. From the events blocks, we'll get a when green flag clicked. From the control blocks, we'll get a forever loop. And inside the forever loop, we'll put a wait 1 second block. And from the variables, a change block. And this time, rather than changing the score, we'll change the timer. So wait 1 second, change the timer by 1. We need to set the timer to 0 at the start of the game. So also in the variables block, we'll get the block that says set to 0, and rather than saying score, we'll change that to timer. So the timer set to 0 at the start of the game, and forever we'll wait 1 second and the timer will increase by 1. If you wanted to, you could change this so that rather than it being in seconds, it could be in tenths of a second. So you could wait 0.1 second, whoops, and you could then change the timer by 0.1. So let's see how that looks on screen. You can see you've got a timer counting away up in the corner, along with the score that changes each time I catch a mouse. That's great. Now we can add a function where the game stops after a certain period of time, so that you can then compare the score that different players can get in the same time frame. So let's put together a little piece of code. We'll go to the events blocks and get the when green flag clicked. Then into the control blocks, and we just need 3 from here. So we're going to get forever, then the if then block, and then we're going to get from just below here the stop all block, and we're going to pop that inside the loop. So all we need is the condition that we're going to put together which will stop everything happening. We'll go back into the operators blocks and we'll get that greater than block again, and this time we will say from the variables, if the timer is greater than, and I'm going to set mine to 10 just to demonstrate to you. If the timer is greater than 10, then stop everything. So we can start the game. I can move around and see how many mice I can catch in 10 seconds. And there you go. I got 7 mice in 10 seconds. So you can see if you can improve on that. So that's your finished game. Obviously there are lots of things that you can do to add extra things to this. Perhaps you might want to change the difficulty level by adjusting the size of the characters, perhaps looking at the speed at which the cat can move. There are lots of ways that you can personalise it. So I hope you have fun doing that. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And I hope to be able to release more of these tutorial videos very soon. Thanks very much.